everybody, and welcome to this week's version of Yoga Shorts. This week joining us, we have Clara and Felix, my kids, and we also have Cooper Copper Steve, the dog, who hopefully won't give us too much trouble today. If this is your first time joining us on this YouTube channel, thank you so much. We are doing 30 minutes of yoga that we hope to bring more stability and mobility to your life, to maybe make yoga a little bit more accessible, or at least something that you can access at home that you can do on your own without having to commute to a studio. To start today, we're going to do a little bit of pranayama. So if everybody could grab a block. If you don't have a yoga block at home, you can use a book or something similar in shape, or a large pillow. We're going to start off just by elevating our hips higher than our knees. And there's two options here. You can set the block down and sit in a cross-legged position with your legs in front of you, ensuring that your knees are lower than your hips. If you need added height, grab that. Or you can tuck your feet in behind you in Virasana, allowing the thighs to fold in towards one another. Either way that you're sitting, we want to make sure that you have a nice neutral spine so that your lumbar curve isn't flexing out and bowing or totally listing forward. We just want you to be nice and comfortable. Everybody go ahead and close your eyes and just start to breathe. Drop into the space. Big inhales and exhales through the nose. Relaxing through the belly and trying to make space between the ribs. Open up as you breathe in. Feeling the space expand as you inhale, and then slightly contract as you exhale. Relaxing through the forehead and the shoulders. Try to slow the breathing down. Try to begin to make the exhales a little bit longer than the inhales. Pay attention to the weight of your body into the mat or the block or the pillow or prop that you have underneath you. Do you notice the weight more on one hip than the other? Are you sort of leaning forward or leaning backward? Try to take your spine and make it a little bit longer. Give yourself a little bit more space within the torso to breathe. And then gently opening the eyes. We're going to stretch the arms up, overhead. We're going to drop the shoulders down, and then we're going to lift the fingertips up towards the ceiling. So lift up. Drop the shoulders back down. Lift up with the arms. Drop the shoulders back down. Lift up with the fingertips and then drop the shoulders back down. Well done. We're going to take the left hand towards the floor beside us and reach over towards the left, making sure that our right hip bone is grounded into the block or prop beneath us. Reaching through that right hand to create a nice stretch in the ribs on the right side. Breathe into that space to almost elongate the rainbow that your ribs are making. On your next inhale, come up to center. Exhale, come over to the opposite side, taking the right hand down, grounding through that left sits bone into your block or prop. And then as you breathe, opening up the spaces between the ribs. And this time as we inhale, we're going to come up. Follow the exhale to the side, side bending over. Inhaling here, opening up through the ribs. Exhaling and then inhaling back to center. Exhaling to the opposite side. Inhaling to expand the space between the ribs. Exhaling here and then inhaling back up to a seat. Well done. Go ahead and take the block and just move it out of the way for now. We're going to come onto all fours on our mats. We're going to do the same type of exercise that we did with the shoulders when we were sitting, lifting the fingertips up and bringing them back down, just isolating shoulder movement. Only this time, we're going to try to keep the back nice and straight. So our lumbar curve isn't dumping. Lift those bellies up just slightly. And we want to make sure that the hips and the upper back and the head are all in one line. So we're trying to line up our spine. Then we're going to take the breastbone through the shoulders and up and away. Through the shoulders, up and away. Imagine as though your shoulders are stuck in space and you're moving your body around them. Inhaling to come up, exhaling to come down. Also make sure that your wrists are right below your shoulders as you're doing this movement. Good work, keeping everything nice and stable. Try to put your head up so that it's in line with the rest of your spine. And then just move this, keeping the shoulders nice and stable. Good job. So keep your shoulders still, and then lift your chest up, and then back down. Good. Keep your shoulders where they are. And then try to take your low back there, just like that. Keep your low back like this, and just move this part of your spine. Good. And then go ahead and relax. We're going to take the weight in our hands, and everybody's fingertips are probably facing forward like this right now. We're going to take them out to the side. So the fingertips are pointing out towards the outside of our mat. And then we're just going to bend the elbows a couple times, opening up through the forearms, getting a little bit more weight in there. If it's too much on all fours, you can be leaning back with your bum on your heels and just doing this. So we take some of the weight out of the wrists. Now we're going to take the fingertips from the side position and we're going to point them towards our knees behind us. Again, if it's too much to put weight on them in all fours, just lean back onto your hips as you do this. And in this one, we're not going to bend the elbows. We're just going to come into a nice stretch. Breathing here. And then we're going to take our fingertips and we're going to place weight onto our wrists on the back of our hands, but we don't want to put our full body weight on them. We just want enough that we feel a little bit of a stretch. Be very mindful. These are very small muscles. So we're going to take the fingertips and point them towards one another on our mat. And I would start in a kneeling position with your bum on your heels. Place the hands down and then ever so gently lifting the hips so weight starts to shift into your wrists. You might find that your elbows are bowed out like this and that's giving you a stretch, and that's good. Then listen to your body and what you're doing. Breathing here into the wrists. And then go ahead and sit back and just do some circles with your hands and the wrists and the opposite direction. Good. Now we're going to come into all fours with the wrists under the shoulders and the knees under the hips. We're going to lift the back right leg, but before we do that, I want everybody to recalibrate your spine, maintaining that nice line between it. So we're not having flexion through the lumbar spine. We don't look like cats, but we're not dumping into our bellies either. Nice straight line through the spine in its natural curve. We're going to take the right knee and lift it up, taking the foot towards the ceiling. Foot is flexed, lift up, and then take the heel towards the bum. Take it back out and down. Try to keep your hips stable. That will help keep your pelvis stable. We're going to lift up the left knee towards the ceiling and then take the heel towards the bum and up and back down. Opposite side, up. Take the heel towards the bum. Lift it up a little bit more. Take the heel towards the bum. Lift it up a little bit more. Take the heel towards the bum and then come on back down. Opposite side, lifting the left leg up. Taking the heel towards the bum. Lift the left knee a little higher. Bring that heel in a little bit more. Lift the left knee up a little bit higher. Bring that heel in a little bit more. And then everybody pause here and pay attention to your lower back. Are you dumping into your lower back to bring the heel in more? Re-straighten your spine so it's in its natural curve. and then go ahead and let that left leg down. Nicely done. All right, we're gonna just take the right leg and we're gonna do some circles with the hips. But again, I want you to be mindful of keeping the spine nice and neutral as you go through this. So you're not moving your spine all around. I just want movement, articulation in the hip. So using the right leg, we're gonna do forward circles, bringing the hip up and around and down, keeping everything else nice and neutral. So try to stay neutral here. Let's bring this leg back. There you go. You'll be more stable back here. All right, now bring that hip out and around. Good. Less wiggling. Much better. Okay. Rest that leg down and let's try with the left. Trying to keep the hips and shoulders nice and stable. So you're also not wiggling like a worm, which Felix is demonstrating really well right here. So I'm holding him just to stabilize so he gets articulation through the hip. Lift it up and back and around, up and back and around. Try to keep yourself nice and stable otherwise. Good job. 2 more times there. Try to keep it nice and stable. Good, and go ahead and relax down. Nicely done. For this next exercise, if you've watched other videos of mine before, this might be familiar. We're gonna tuck the toes underneath, and then we're gonna set the hips back towards them. If it feels comfortable, you're gonna walk the hands up to put weight into the heels, stretching the toes out. And then, if you're able to sit back, take the pinky toe and untuck it and have it come out to the side a little bit more. They tend to get lost in the fray with this exercise. So go ahead and tuck your toes from all fours. Put your knees together and go ahead and walk your hands back. Coming up if you can. If this becomes too intense, feel free to lean forward. And if you are sitting back, tuck that baby toe in and down. And then we're gonna work our forearms a little bit more. So starting with the right, we're gonna take the right arm forward and we're gonna hang on to the forearm with the left hand, just like this. And we're gonna do some wrist circles here. And what that prevents us doing is spinning of the forearm. You can see that I have a lot of mobility in my forearm and I want to isolate that to the wrist. Taking it down and up, taking it around to the side and maybe taking it to the opposite side. Felix is demonstrating that he's having a lot of feelings right here. Do you feel that? Can you keep it so that this arm bone stays nice and straight? Bring the wrist towards you and away. Well done. And then everybody, I'm going to have you bring your fist towards you. And then uncurl your fingers one by one. Pinky, next one, thumb. And then bring the fingers as close to your forearm as possible, pulling them down and back, really activating through your palm. Try to keep this hand still on your forearm. And then go ahead and curl your pinky, your ring finger, your middle, index and thumb, and spin it around again. Good. We're going to do the opposite side now. So grab the opposite forearm and we're going to spin away. I realize that you're all sitting on your toes at this point, hopefully, and that's good. If it becomes too intense, you can untuck your toes and just sit with your tops of your feet on the floor. We're going to continue with the forearm flares, trying to keep the forearm stable as we're spinning through the wrists. This engages muscles in the forearms and gets ourselves to work those little muscles in the wrists that we warmed up earlier. We're going to take the fist towards us and then lift through the fingers. Once your fingers are all lifted, pull the hand back towards the forearm. Remember to keep breathing, even though this is a big exercise for those little muscles. And then start to curl through the fingers, starting with the pinky. Try to do each finger individually as you curl them down. Maybe do a couple more wrist curls here, and then go ahead and release. Next up, challenge our balance a little bit. We're gonna use blocks for this. If you don't have blocks, again, you can use books. If you have a staircase at home, you can bring your iPad or laptop over to the staircase and you can do this type of work there. So we're gonna start by standing on a block. If standing on one block is too much, you can grab two, or again, using stairs works really well. We're gonna start by putting the forefoot of our feet on the blocks, making sure that the blocks have enough support that they're not gonna flip over as we do this exercise. And then, what we're gonna do is dip our heels and come up. Dip your heels and come up. Try to work with your balance, dipping your heels and coming up. If you find that you're really wobbly, you can put these next to a wall, or if you're on a staircase, use your hand to balance or the banister railing to hold as you're moving up and down with those heels. Well done. Woo. So these help activate little stabilizers in our calves and feet that we don't always use in everyday life. Go ahead and step down. The next thing that we're going to be doing, we'll be using just one block. And this time, we're just going to step onto the block with one foot, making sure that it's totally stable. We want to make sure that the hips here are flat. We're going to flex through the foot, and then we're just going to bend through the same knee as is on the block and tap that heel onto the floor. You may not be able to get it onto the floor, but I want you to watch to make sure that the top of your pelvis stays the same height. So again, working through little stabilizer muscles to help us with our balance, but then also starting to engage the bigger muscles in the legs, like the quads. Keeping those hips nice and stable so you're not listing. You can see as I do this, my pelvis tilts towards one side to bring the heel to the floor. We want to keep the pelvis nice and stable as we come down and up. Nicely done. Step off the block and switch feet. And then when you're ready, come on back up. Reestablish your stable pelvis and tap the heel towards the floor. Your heel may not ever touch the floor or the next step in that staircase, and that's okay. You're still working those muscles and you're still working on balance. Being mindful of that pelvis, trying not to wiggle. Big smiles on your faces. This helps with a lot of the balance poses in a more typical yoga class. All right. And then go ahead and step down. Now we're going to take our feet and we're going to have it as though we're on a high heel position. So the block will come underneath our foot and our toes are on the floor. I'm going to just put my foot up a little bit closer so that you guys can see here. So my toes are on the floor, my heel is against the block. And then we're going to try to bend the knee.
I don't think it fits.
And for the kids, it doesn't fit, so I have some books here that we're going to grab for them. All right, so let's try these books. Make use of whatever props you have at home so that this exercise works for you. So set your heel on the books. Well done. Are those too high for you, Felix?
No, those are like too low. They feel too low.
Well, lower is better than higher, so try that. So set yourself up, nice and stable. Check in with your hips, and then start to bend the knee to tap the heel. Again, working all those stabilizers with the ankle in different positions, so our bodies get used to moving in different ways. And go ahead and switch feet. Hurts. Clara just said that it hurts. That's because there's muscles that are being activated that she doesn't normally use. So a little bit of stretching and tension and working those muscles is okay, but if it's very painful, please stop. Always listening to your body. Bending through, tapping the heel, lifting up. Let's do two more here. and then go ahead and come down. You might have noticed a big difference between your left and right foot, and that's quite common and quite normal. Just something to notice. All right, let's put the books away. Do you guys want to go put them back on the table? And then we're going to set up for our next exercise. So we're going to do a little bit more hip rotation. So we're going to set ourselves up so we're lying down with our feet and our hips in a 90-degree angle. So what I mean by that is come to a seat and then put your thigh in front of you with your foot out to one side, and then the opposite thigh out to the side with the calf out at a 90-degree angle. So it looks like this with your legs. Good, Clara. So Felix, let's tuck this in a little bit more and have this come up a little bit higher. And then can you turn it face forward? I'm going too hard on you. I'm glad that you said something. Is this hard for you? This? Okay, well then let's sit on a block. And for those of you at home, if it's hard to do this position, it might just mean that you don't have the flexibility in your hips yet. So we need to do it more. So go ahead and sit down on that, Felix. So good that you said something so that we could fix it. Bring this leg up and then bring this leg to the side. Does that feel better? Does that feel better? Yeah? It's really hard to do everything. Okay, well just, if you'd like to stay in child's pose, you can stay in child's pose. All right. From your 90-degree position, what we're gonna do is focus on the back foot, and we're just gonna try to lift the heel off the ground. So I'll turn and face the side so that you guys can see it from a side view. Putting my feet in 90 degrees, I'm gonna lift the back heel up and down, and up and down, trying to weight myself through both hips. And then if you're able, we're gonna try to lift that back foot up and put it down. Lift the back foot up and put it down. You might only be lifting it up mentally. You might be leaning to the side to lift it up, and that's okay. We're activating the same muscles, even if we lean and even if we put weight into our hands. So if you lean over to the opposite side, and then that foot lifts up, yeah. Can you lift the foot now? Press the knee down, lift the foot up. And if you can't, that's okay. Just keep lifting the heel. You'll work the same muscles. All right, now put your hands behind you. Take the knees up and over to the opposite side. And we'll do the opposite side. Lifting the heel up and setting it down. Lifting the heel up and setting it down. Lifting the heel up and setting it down. And this time maybe lifting the foot and setting it down. Lifting the foot and setting it down. And you should start to feel, if you don't already, those big muscles in your legs start to work. All right. Come back to neutral, cross your legs, and come up to stand. Now we're gonna work on keeping that neutral back, and we're gonna play a little bit. So we're gonna take the blocks, and we're gonna hip hinge, which means I'm just gonna go as far as I can, keeping my back nice and straight without bending it. So no flexion in the lower back. We wanna keep the lumbar curve in the spine. As we come down, we're gonna set the block down, and then we're gonna come back up, and then I'm gonna come down and I'm gonna grab it with the opposite hand, and I'm gonna set it somewhere else, and I'm gonna come back up, and then I'm gonna come back down, and I'm gonna move it somewhere else, and I'm gonna come back up. Trying to keep that lumbar curve in your spine. Nice work, Felix. Good job. Try to keep the block closer to center so that this part of your back can stay nice and straight. You're doing great. If you keep the weight out of your heels, that tends to help the hamstrings, the back of the legs, engage so that your pelvis can tip over those legs. This time, put the block in the middle, and then we're gonna lift up the right leg behind us as we reach for it with our left hand. Setting the block somewhere else. We're gonna come back up, go onto the opposite leg, take the left leg behind us as we reach for the block and go somewhere else. Try to keep the lumbar curve in one place, switching legs, grabbing the block with the opposite hand. Move the block around to challenge yourself and make it a little bit more difficult each time, possibly bending through the standing leg to grab it. Trying to keep that lumbar curve in the spine as you hinge through the hips. Nicely done. All right, let's take the blocks and we can put them at the front of our mat. You might find that it's useful to have a block in this next position. So we're going to set the block about 3 or 4 feet in front of our right foot. And then we're going to hip hinge again with the left leg behind us, reaching for it with the right arm. When you get to the point where your hand is on the block, or possibly on the floor if you're bendy, we're going to take this left hip and reach it up, extending through the leg, coming into half moon. For most people, this is a very hard balance pose, even after all the balance work we've done with the block and the building up of the stabilizers in our legs and our hands that we've done. All right, go ahead and come back up. We're going to step with our left foot this time, so put the block about 3 feet in front of that left foot. Then we're going to hinge, taking the right foot back behind us, reaching for the block with our left hand. Once our hand feels stable, we can take the right hip up towards the ceiling, coming into half moon on the opposite side. Playing with your balance, noticing if it's a little bit difficult. I'll tell you a trick here. If that back foot stays within your peripheral vision, so you're not swinging it back behind you, you're a lot more likely to stay up in half moon. And now we'll try a biohack to see if we can get your body to get the balance a little bit more built in to our system. So everybody come onto your knees. Take the right foot and knee forward in a kneeling position. And then we're going to lift up onto the toes and we're going to lift the knee up. Try to focus your gaze on the floor, just slightly ahead of where that foot is. Gaze at something that's not moving and see how long you can balance with that foot up. This is teaching your body to recalibrate and use those stabilizer muscles within your core and your hips. Go ahead and take your arms out to the side as wide as you need, teaching the body how to stabilize. If you can do that and you're feeling fairly stable, maybe look up. And if you can do that and you feel fairly stable, maybe try to move the front knee around slightly. Go ahead and set that foot down and let's switch sides. How was that for you guys?
It's hard.
It's hard? Thumbs down for Felix. All right, we're gonna take the left foot and come up to tiptoe. Take those arms out wide. Give yourself as much support as you can. And then lift the foot. Breathing here. And if that's feeling pretty easy, maybe shifting your gaze up. Maybe taking that knee side to side. Or looking around the room. Just trying to find stability, allowing your body to find areas that it needs to compensate and which muscles to engage. Go ahead and take the foot down. And then we're going to try half moon once more. So come on up to stand. Let's take the block over in front of our right foot. We're going to hinge over, taking the left leg back, coming down to the block or the floor, taking the left hip up, opening it up, flexing through the back hip, and hopefully you'll find that half moon this time is a lot easier because your muscles have organized themselves to talk to your brain to tell you what position you need to be in to have this work for you. Go ahead and take that left foot down. Take the block over to the left side. Shift the weight into the left foot as you take the right leg back. Felix, you're doing great. Let's take this toes and make make sure that you can see your toes. Can you see your toes? That keeps them in your peripheral vision, and that will help you find your balance. Nicely done. It's hard work. You could stop. Everybody else, go ahead and take that foot back down to meet the other. And let's come on down to the ground. Nice work. Those are hard to do. All right, we're gonna come in to little bridge. So go ahead and just set your blocks to the side. Go ahead and lie down on your mats. And then keep your feet hip distance apart, bringing your heels in towards your bottom as much as you can. We're gonna tuck through the pelvis, getting the lower back to kiss the floor underneath us, and then roll up through the pelvis, rolling up through the spine, pushing our hips towards the ceiling, and then shifting the weight into our heels to push the weight into our shoulders a little bit more. If you want to interlace your hands behind you, you can do that to lift up onto the shoulders a little bit more. So roll that up, guys. Maybe take your heels a little bit wider, making sure that they're hip distance, yeah. And then push your hips up, shift the weight into your heels. Good. You can clasp your hands underneath you if that helps to push weight into your shoulders. Do you want to try or are you done? You can be done if you want. Okay. All right, so push your hips up a little bit more if you're doing it at home with us, and a little bit more, push the hips up, push the hips up. Try to take your leg away from my hand, push the shins back. Nicely done. Now slowly roll down through the spine, starting with the upper back, rolling down through the thoracic portion near your lungs, then the lumbar spine, and then finally the pelvis. And then go ahead and straighten out your legs, and we're going to come into Shavasana. So relaxing out fully, closing your eyes, allowing gravity to hold you and hug you towards the earth. Finding that breath that we started with in the beginning. Relaxing the belly as you inhale, exhale through the nose. Big, deep belly breaths. If thoughts arise, just acknowledge them and then allow them to dissipate again. They'll come up and that's okay. Return your attention to the breath, focusing on the sensation of your body against the mat or the floor beneath you. We'll be here for a few minutes and I'll let you know when we're done. So go ahead and close your eyes and fully relax, allowing yourself to be so grateful for being able to enjoy this practice and work your body the way that you did. And a deep inhale. Start to bring awareness back into your body. Maybe wiggling through your fingers and your toes. Maybe reaching up through the arms and stretching. When you're ready, roll onto your right hand side and take a couple of breaths there. Allowing your mind to recalibrate back in the body. And then rolling more onto your side, push up through your arms so you come into a comfortable seat. Thank you all for joining us today in this quite challenging balance practice. I'd like to thank all of you at home. The light in me honors and acknowledges the light in each of you. Namaste. And if you liked what you saw in this video and you got your kiddos to join, please give me a like on this YouTube channel and go ahead and subscribe for more like this every single Friday. Thanks again.